The horrible death of 1. Seneca, the complete story. Who was Seneca? Seneca, also known as Lucio Anneo Seneca, was one of the most important philosophers, writers, and politicians of ancient Rome. It is believed that Seneca was born around the year 1 AD in Córdoba, in the province of Bética, in Hispania. There are several possible dates of birth under discussion, such as the years 1, 4, and 5 AD. This was mentioned by the Spanish poet Marcial in one of his epigrams. Seneca initially showed an inclination towards Pythagorean mysticism and the cults of Isis and Serapis, but later he leaned towards Stoicism, a philosophy that he would adopt until the end of his days. His training was very varied and rich, including grammar and rhetoric. Seneca was a Roman philosopher and writer who suffered from asthma and poor health since childhood. Despite his modest origin, he stood out as an orator and writer and was appointed quaestor in Rome. However, his success aroused the envy and jealousy of the Emperor Caligula, who sentenced him to death in the year 37. A woman close to Caligula convinced the emperor that Seneca would soon die due to poor health, so he drifted from life. Public. After the death of Caligula and the arrival of Claudius to the throne, Seneca was once again sentenced, this time to exile, accused of adultery with Caligula's sister. It is suspected that his conviction may have been motivated by fear of Claudio's wife, who would believe him a potential political enemy due to his influence in the Senate. Seneca had a successful career as a lawyer and politician, later becoming a tutor to the young Emperor Nero. For 8 years, Seneca and Donkey ruled the de facto Roman Empire. Their policy focused on curbing the excesses of the young Nero and preventing Agrippina from seizing royal power. While Nero followed Seneca's instructions and engaged in morally acceptable leisure, Seneca and Burro promoted legal and financial reforms and carried out a successful war in Armenia. However, Nero began to disappear from the influence of Seneca, and the latter was accused of crimes such as deploring the imperial regime, extravagance in his banquets, hypocrisy, usury, and excessive wealth. It is likely that Seneca's immense wealth led to his downfall in front of Nero, who would not tolerate someone who could shadow him in that regard. However, his relationship with Nero deteriorated and Seneca was eventually accused of conspiring against the emperor. If you liked this video, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our updates. Also, if you know someone who might be interested in our content, please share it with them so they can enjoy it too. During his time as Nero's tutor, Seneca had a significant influence on the young emperor's education and philosophy. However, as Nero grew in power, his relationship with Seneca became increasingly strained. In AD 62, Seneca withdrew from public life and devoted himself to writing philosophy and seeking inner peace. But in AD 65, Seneca was accused of participating in a conspiracy to assassinate Nero. Although there is no clear evidence that Seneca was actually guilty, the accusation was enough for Nero to order his execution. Seneca received an order from Emperor Nero to commit suicide. Rather than die at the hands of the executioners, Seneca decided to take the initiative and choose the way he was going to die. Seneca chose to die by the radial vein, a common method of suicide in Roman times that involved opening the vein in the arm and allowing the blood to flow until death. Seneca prepared for his death calmly and without fear, as described in his work Letters to Lucilius. He said goodbye to his friends and family, distributed his possessions, and wrote his will. Then, he bathed and dressed in his best clothes. Instead of crying over his own death, Seneca spoke to his friends calmly and serenely, reminding them that death is a part of life and must be accepted philosophically and without fear. Seneca prepared for his death surrounded by his closest and most serene friends. With great dignity, he said goodbye to them and prepared to open the vein. However, due to his advanced age and a disease he suffered at the time, the blood did not flow fast enough to cause death. Seneca was kept alive for several hours, suffering great agony as he tried to control the pain. Finally, Seneca asked one of his friends to bring him some poison from a plant found in his garden, known as hemlock. Even though the poison is painful and agonizing, Seneca decided to drink it to hasten his death and end his suffering. After drinking the hemlock, Seneca died peacefully. After drinking the poison, Seneca began to feel the deadly effects of it. She experienced a burning sensation in her stomach and her body trembled, but despite the pain, she maintained a calm and composed demeanor. According to some accounts, Seneca even used his last moments to have a philosophical conversation with his friends and followers, reflecting on the nature of death and the meaning of life. After a few hours, Seneca died peacefully. His death was an important event in the history of Rome and was considered by many as an act of bravery and courage in defending his beliefs and principles. Seneca left a lasting legacy as one of the greatest thinkers and writers of ancient Rome, and his works continue to be studied and admired throughout the world. A little more about Seneca. If you like our content and you are not subscribed yet, subscribe, like, and share, so you help us make more videos. Thank you. Conclusion. Seneca's death was a tragedy for him as well as for his followers and admirers. Seneca is remembered today as one of the great philosophers of ancient Rome, and his death was a display of his great dignity and courage. Despite Nero's attempts to destroy his legacy, Seneca's work has endured through the centuries and continues to be a source of inspiration and wisdom to many. Seneca is known for his philosophical, literary, and political work. He wrote numerous treatises on topics such as ethics, religion, politics, and rhetoric, and his works have been a lasting influence on Western culture. His writings, such as Letters to Lucilio, have been admired for their clear and concise style, and their focus on the pursuit of happiness and virtue. In addition, his work as a politician and advisor has been valued for his commitment to justice and equity. Despite his tragic death, Seneca remains an important and respected figure in the history of philosophy and literature. His focus on the importance of living a virtuous life and the pursuit of wisdom has been an inspiration to many over the centuries, and his legacy has influenced the work of other great philosophers and writers, such as Montaigne and Shakespeare. In short, Seneca's death was a great loss to the world, but his legacy lives on and continues to inspire many people today. Legacy and influence in the world. Seneca's legacy and influence in the world spans through the centuries and encompasses many different areas. As a philosopher and writer, Seneca has been an influence on literature, ethics, and politics. His work has been studied and cited by philosophers and thinkers of all ages, and is still relevant today. In literature, Seneca is known for his essays, dialogues, and tragedies, which have been a source of inspiration for many later writers. His work of The Brevity of Life is particularly influential and is considered a classic of philosophical literature. He is also credited with creating the genre of moral epistolography, which consists of writing letters with advice and ethical reflections. Regarding ethics, Seneca's work has been a source of inspiration for many philosophical and religious currents, including Stoicism, humanism, and Christianity. His emphasis on virtue, reason, and self-control has been a lasting influence on Western philosophy. In politics, Seneca has been an influence on political thought and the theory of power. His reflections on the relationship between the ruler and the ruled have been studied and cited by politicians and philosophers throughout history, and his work De la Clemencia is considered an important source of reflection on the nature of power and justice. In short, Seneca's legacy and influence in the world spans many different areas, and his work continues to be a source of inspiration and wisdom to many. Thank you for your interest in culture and knowledge. I hope the information I provided you has been useful and interesting. If you want to continue learning and exploring, We invite you to subscribe to our cultural YouTube channel for more educational and entertaining content. See you soon.